Now, they now go further and tell us that 100 naira is 100,000 naira, sorry, is the salary of the supervisor. Now, from this 700,000 now, they have tell us that, okay, we are removing 100,000 naira from it to settle the supervisor, those people that will be supervising the people that will be carrying out those productions. You know, and they now go further and say, okay, from this 100,000 naira that we allocate to the supervisor, 600, 6,000, what is it called? 6,000 naira of it is for the assembly supervisor. So the supervisor that is being assigned to the assembly department now will be getting 60,000 naira. Why the supervisor that was allocated to the finishing department now will be getting 40,000 naira. Now, we have already know how the structure to spend 100,000. The remaining overhead now is remaining 600. That is where we are having issues. So the question now go forward and said, okay, the remaining overhead is to be split. 40% of it now we go to assembly, and then the 60% we go to finishing department. Okay, now the remaining 600,000 now, we want to split it. You know, whenever splitting comes in, one thing that should come to your head is apportionment. You know, they are apportioning it based on the percentage to the two departments, but they are not being specific on where they really want to charge the, what is it called, the overhead to. So the company expected to produce 30,000 of decks, 20,000 of decks. We have done all those ones. So now they now consider, okay, now since we are using basis of apportionment now, our overhead will be absorbed on the labor hour based on what we did in the previous class. Now we want to start. So remember that we have worked on this. So what I will just do is just to come up with the splitting of the overhead. Then I will use this scorecard table to just formalize it and only change this overhead, so not to take much of our time, please. So please pay attention and then ask questions at any time. You are free. So now, you know, I like using table. This is, we are not using Excel. So let me see. And you that do not like using table, so you can use any approach. But I just want it to be well structured. So that is the reason why I'm trying to use table. Okay. Descriptions. So our workings will be here. Now, okay. Now we have 700,000 as our overhead. 700,000. Now that is what we need to do, because the remaining aspect for labor and then for material, we have already know how to calculate for those ones. But we multiply the hour with the layer, what is it called, the material that we want to purchase with the material per kg, then we get the total material that we're going to use for each unit. But where we are having issues is this, how to apportion and then absorb this overhead. Now, supervisor. Okay. Now let's come here. We have two departments.
Oh, anyone hear me?
Hello?
Okay.
Sorry,
It's,
sorry, I
uh,
cannot,
it's
we
network.
cannot hear from this end.
No, I think it's network. It's bad.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
So let's just wait for him.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, he dropped a message that he's going to join us soon.
Okay, sorry. I don't know what happened. My laptop just went off. So sorry, and it's fully charged. I don't know why. Okay, I believe you can all hear me now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
so sorry about that. I don't know. It just went. I don't know. Maybe he decided to do automatically restart. I don't know. I was just surprised. All right. So let me try to share the screen back. Let me try to share my screen. This is the really popular business. So please give me a few minutes. I'm trying to open back the materials. Oh, I'm opening here. Okay, so now let me share. All right. I believe we can see the screen back now. Where do we stop? Oh, can you imagine? None of these things say though. Oh, sorry, I'm coming up. Just few minutes. Oh my goodness. I want to see if it's actually safe from where I stopped. Okay, did not see. All right, so I think we will just start. We'll restart back. So you can see the screen back now. Please just confirm so that I will.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
sir.
okay. So that is fine. Sorry, this kind of a little challenges definitely will happen. So okay, now just give me a few minutes. Just rewrite what I've got before. 700,000. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so description. Then let me see how we can just put here workings, departments, our assembly, and then the finish department. Then maybe the total of what we get. So from this. Okay. So now before we have a little break off, I was explaining on how the course was allocated, and then how we are going to apportion the one that is not allocated. Okay, where did yeah. Okay, I think this is even what I'm working on. Very well. I'm coming. Okay. Please hold on for me. I think I just check the second one and see where I started from. Okay. Let me reshare this one. I should try to share with itself. I don't know why this one is doing me like this tonight. I don't know why. I don't know why it's doing it. Which one am I sharing again? Let me see. Which one did I just share? The way. Come up for here now. Sorry guys, sorry please. This thing just causing some. Okay. So look solution. $700,000. Okay, so now from the question now, they have already given us this for the supervisor. So it means this one, it has already been allocated to the department. So what are we going to do now? You just calculate for your supervisor. You can just write it direct, by creating each of the line. Just depend on how you want to do it. But I just want to use the table because of the approach that we are using, so that it can look a little bit more formal. So now 60,000 naira go to Department of Assembly, while 40,000 naira go to what is it called? The Finish Department. So it means this 100,000 naira has been allocated. Now, to be on the safer side, because we are still seeing 700 naira here, 700,000 here. So you just say supervisor 100,000 now balance. Our balance now from the overhead now will now be the difference between these two. Now the difference between these two now is 600,000. So it means what we are to apportion now based on our structures, on how the question asks us, using this splitting of this percentage now. Is going to be 600,000, no longer 700,000, because 100,000 from this 700,000 has been allocated directly to a specific center for a specific purpose. But this one that we did not know how we are going to split it. But the question says we should split it using 100% percentage, and then 40% to assembly, and then 60% to the finishing department. So what we just do, we just say, okay, remaining balance 600,000 multiplied by 40 divided by 100. I believe we know how we get this 100. How do we get this 40 and then 100? Remember, this is what we are using. 60 to 40, which is 100%. So now let's carry our calculator and calculate it. 600,000 multiplied by 40. Multiplied by 40 divided by 100. So it means if we divide this, we are going to get 240,000 for the assembly. Okay, then the second one, 600. Okay, let me go down. I want to just simplify so that we will understand for those who are having challenges in 60 divided by on 100. Now, if we do the second one now, it's going to give us 360. So now we have split this 600,000 now based on the departments. So based on the departments now. Now, if we had these 240 and then 600, I'll be 360 together, we should be able to get this 600. So I just want to believe that we are with a calculator. Remember, this one is being divided on the basis of ratio, 60 to 40. So in the exam, they might decide to give you ratio. They might not give you percentage. But be very careful to know how they ask you to apportion the cost. So, which is the most important thing. You need to know, okay, now how did they ask us to apportion these things? How are we going to apportion it? That is the major thing that you need to understand. But once you be able to understand the basis of this, you are good to go. Now, the total of 700,000 now, 100 plus 600. Now, here is the total. So, let's come here now. 240 plus 600 plus 60,000. I think it should be able to give us 300,000. Should be able to give us 300,000. Give us 300,000. Then 360,000 plus 40,000. This one should be able to give us 400,000. Please, if you calculate your own like this and it's not giving you this 300 and 400 to get this total, just notice that there is something wrong somewhere. Something wrong somewhere. Now that we have split this cost now based on how they ask us to do. Now, the next thing to do now is to know how much is going to be our cost based on this our level. Remember, this very one, the overhead should be absorbed on the labor hour basis. So let me just bring the one we did before, not to take much time. So this is what we did. This is what we did before, this very one. So let me copy. Let me copy this and then bring it here. So now, since our overhead is to be solved based on the labor hour basis, and then for the decks now, we are to produce 30,000 units. And then for these 30,000 units now, we have 4 hours, which means to produce these 30,000 decks now, we are going to spend 120 hours. And then the same thing applies to chair. To produce these 20,000 chairs, which we are going to spend 1 hour to produce each one, we are going to spend 20 hours. So it means to produce these two products now, it will take us 140 hours to do so. And then I believe we remember how we split this. So I just want to be straightforward so that not to take time. Okay. Now that we have already know, but remember here, let me write this. Okay, let me write this. Overhead costs 600,000. And assembly have how much, please? Assembly have 300. Assembly have 250. Sorry, 300,000. Okay, finish departments have 400,000. Now let's now go back to the questions. This one say for assembly is going to take us 3 hours. Why for finishing it will take us 1 hour. Now this is where we have another work to do now, because this one is not like direct based on what we first did earlier. So then we'll now come here. Okay, assembly 3 hours. Assembly 3 hours. Then okay, let me put for decks. I want to believe that we are on the same page. Finish 1 hours. Okay. Now this is how we are going to split the hour. And then remember that the first one we did is straightforward because it's not based on the department. But this very one now, we need to be very careful. The purpose of it now is just for us to get, okay, now how much are we going to spend for each of these what is it called? Each of these labor hour, so that we'll be able to get the absorption overhead per unit. I believe we are on the same page. So we'll come here. Okay, I think let me add one more here to just simplify this. I think I need to add one more here. I'm coming, please. Let me add one more here. Right. Okay. Let me add one more here and just calculate it for us. Another one. Let me add one. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Now assembly. Also, I believe if I use this table, it will get what my explanation very well. This. Okay. Now this thing have changed. We are using 3 hours for for assembly, and then 30,000 multiply by 1 hours. Okay. Now, if you multiply, let me delete this. Okay. If you multiply 30,000 by 3 hours, how much is going to give you? It will give you 90,000. So it means in assembly now, since it's based on department now. Sorry, please. Okay. Okay, someone is raising up a hand. Just unmute and proceed and ask the question, please. Ask the question, please. No time, please. Okay.
Yes. How you changed it from 3 hours to 1 hour?
Yes. You know, the reason why I did that is now that is why I go back to the question to show us. Now, before we are having 4 hours, you know, from the first one that we actually calculated for, we did not have separate departments. Understand? But in this very one now, we're having 2 departments, and these 4 hours to produce each of these decks now is going to be split within these 2 departments. So that is the reason why I decided to put this one, that 3 hours will be for the assembly, and then 1 hour of it will be for the finishing. I hope you get the explanation that I just give now. Did you get it, please? Okay, let's continue. Now, it means we are going to have 30,000 multiplied by 1. So in this one now, we have 30,000 hours. Now, 90,000 hours. 90,000 hours. Then you come to this place too. Now, our chair now, to produce our chair now is 1 hour. But remember, from the question, they decided to split the 1 hour that, okay, 30 minutes of it will go to the assembly department, and then 1 hour, another 30 minutes of it will go to finishing department. You know, this is what we just do. You can just do 1 divided by 5. 1 divided by 5. You know, since we are using for the 2, so let's just do okay, no, sorry, 1 divided by 2, sorry. That is 20,000 multiplied by 1 divided by 2. From it, 20,000 multiplied by 0.5. So it means we'll be having 10,000 here. 10,000 here. Then year 2 will be having 10,000, since we are splitting it based on the same what is it called, on the same minutes. Though you might be getting confused here that how do we do this one? Remember, it's 1 hour, but we are splitting down 1 hour into 2, which means 30 minutes. So to be on the safer side, you can also use another approach by saying 20,000 multiply by 0.5. So it's still going to give you 10. The major of it, just make sure that this 1 hour you're able to split it equally within these 2 departments. Then you now come here, total. Since this one is based on what is it called, the department now. So it means on the assembly department now we have 100 hours. 100,000 hours. While on the finishing now, we'll be having 40,000 hours. So if we had the 2 now, for us to produce these 2 productions now, the total hour that we are going to spend, it will be 140. I believe we are on the same page. Please, if you are not getting me, just omit and ask the question. I don't want us to get lost in these particular questions, please. Now, we have split these hours now. we have split it into two based on the department. You know, the first one that we did, we split it based on the products. But this third questionnaire is based on the department. So now, what is now remaining for us now is now to get our overhead per hour. Overhead per labor hours. Now, remember that, okay, let me come here. Since I've already utilized it, let me come here. We're having 30,000 units for this department. We're having 20,000 units for this department. Now, you now come here, you say it's equal to 30,000 units of what we are going to produce divided by the total hour. Remember, I told you that if it is based on labor hour, so it will be the units of the products or production divided by the basic of apportionment, based on basis of apportionment. And then our basic of apportionment here is labor hours. So I believe we are getting these things now. So now our basic of apportionment here is labor hour based on our department. So it means when we divide this, I'm coming, you know, when we divide this, I'm coming. Give me a few minutes, please. Let me get this thing very well so that I will not get us confused. Okay, sorry, this one should be overhead based on allocation overhead based on allocation. Okay, so now let me come here, please. Just wait for me.
Sure, sir.
Okay, you have something to ask. Go on.
I don't know. So the overhead, you say 30,000 over 100,000 hours. Is it the less overhead cost or the balance we add? That's what we're going to use to divide by the 100 of hours, or?
Okay, this is what we are going to do. Remember what we are doing now. We are apportioning this overhead. We are apportioning this overhead now using this labor hour. Are you getting me now? So we are apportioning this overhead now based on the labor hours. Please just get it. We are apportioning this what is it called? Overhead.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Very much. So now 300,000 that was apportioned to the assembly department multiplied by the total hour that they are going to spend in producing that product, which is 100,000. So it means now for every hours that labor work, they are going to charge 3 naira per overhead. Now, for every hours that the labor work now, they are going to allocate 3 naira per overhead of the hours in which the labor work to carry out this level of our productions. So now this one is for the assembly. This one is for the assembly. Now let's move to the finishing department. Finish departments. Okay, so now remember in finished departments now, we are able to allocate 400,000. Now you now say, okay, 400,000 divided by the 40 hours that is allocated for them to produce these two products, the decks and the chair. 40 hours. 40 hours. Now, if you divide this 400,000 divided by 40, so it means for every hour that labor work, they are going to allocate 10 naira per overhead. Now, I want to believe that we're able to get, because this is where the major was comes in. I believe that we're able to get this very right. Please, if you did not get it, just omit and ask me question before we proceed, please. It's very, very important that you understand this process, please. Do we understand it? Are we
Yes,
on
sir.
the same page?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that is very fine. All right. Now, we have already know how much that we are allocating to each of the departments based on our overhead. Now, the next thing now is to now bring this scorecard now. Let me see if I can just copy this, then I will just edit it. Okay, let me bring this one down. Let me bring it down. Okay. Now, remember we have already calculated for this because the question is almost the same thing. So the way we are having issues is only on this very one. So I'm going to clean. I will clean this. I will clean this. I will clean this. Okay. I will clean this. So now, overhead now, we now have assembly. We have assembly. So it's overhead now that I want to apportion. We have a finish department. We have finished department. This I'm coming. Give me a minute. Let me push this front. Okay. It's not giving me what I want. All right, let me just push it here. Okay. Now, sorry, please. Now, the major thing here is we already split these things now. 3 hours go to assembly, and then 1 hour goes to finish department. Now you now come here and say 3 hours multiply how much do we allocate to the department of assembly. Now is 3 naira now that we allocate. Now you now come here now and say 3 naira per overhead. Let me just put overhead here. 3 naira per overhead. Then you now multiply it. 3 multiplied by 3. So it means to produce our decks now, our total allocated overhead cost now is going to be 9 naira under assembly. Now you now come here again. Remember that this place for what is it called? The chair is 30 minutes. You can say 0.5 because 1 divided by 2 will give you 0.5. Multiply by how much are we going to spend per labor per overhead here is 10 naira. Just simple, you just come here and say 10 naira. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, sorry. 10 naira. Then you multiply it. So if you multiply these two, You see, it's 10 naira, please. I want us to be on the same page. Okay. 10 naira, yes. This multiplied by 10 naira. Yes, it's 10 naira. Then it will give you 5. So it means for us now to produce 1 unit of chair now, we are going to spend 5 naira based on their labor hours. Now you come to finish department now. Finish department now, they allocate how much? 1 hour, please. 1 hour multiply by how much is for finishing. How much is for finishing? 10. Okay, I think this one is wrong, please. This one is wrong. This one is wrong. So because since we are still working on what is it called? On the assembly, so it's supposed to be multiplied by 3 naira. Multiplied by 3 naira. So it will be 1.5. So it means we are going to spend 1.5. So here now will now be 10. Okay, so 0.5 minute, which is 30 minutes, multiplied by 3 naira. So here now, I'm coming on. Let me just get this thing straight. I don't know why. Okay, 3 naira. Multiply. Okay, multiply. So just please give me a few minutes. Let me confirm what I'm doing, so that I will not make a mistake, and then get this thing straight. Okay, multiply by 10. All right, multiply by 10. So it will give us 5. So do we understand what we are doing, please? Do we understand what we are doing, please? Okay, so I want to believe that we understand. So let me just explain this briefly again. So remember, based on what we did here now, assembly now, they allocated 300,000 to them, and then they are going to spend 100 hours in assembly to produce 30,000 units of production. So it means for them to spend these 100 hours, they are going to be allocating 3 naira per labor hours. And then in finishing department now, we allocate 400,000 of overhead to them. And then for them to produce 20,000 of our chair now, they are going to spend 40,000 hours. So now if we divided this 400,000 by these 40,000 hours now, it's going to give us 10 naira. It means for every hour they spend in producing chairs, in furnishing chairs in the finishing departments now, we are going to allocate 10 naira to them. So that is why under this scorecard now, what we just did here now is, okay, they say 3 hours is for the assembly. Good. How many hours, how more do we allocated based on the overhead to the assembly hour is 3 naira. Then the total hour that they are going to spend in processing decks under the assembly hour now, which is 3 hours, multiplied by the 3 naira that we allocated to them. So it means we are going to spend 9 if they produce 1 decks. Now we now move forward that, okay, now now that they say, okay, we have 1 hour to produce chair, but 30 minutes of it is going to go to assembly, and then 30 minutes go to finishing. So now, since we have already allocated 3 naira per overhead, now minutes multiplied by 3 naira or 0.5, which also stand for that 30 minutes now, multiply by the 3 naira now. It means for every chair they will process in the assembly department now, they will allocate 1 naira 5 kobo to them. And then the same thing comes to finishing. Finishing just 1 hour, and then our allocated overhead based on the finishing is 10 naira. So 1 hour in processing, in finishing department multiplied by the 10 naira of the overhead allocated. It means it's going to give us 10 naira per each unit of the decks under the finished department. And then the same thing applicable to these ones now. So now, how much are we now going to spend in total? So that is where another thing comes. Now you say 12 naira plus 8 plus 9. So it means to process 1 unit now, of the decks now, we are going to spend 39 naira, and then to process 1 unit of chair now, we are going to spend 16 naira 5 kobo. 16 naira 5 kobo. So this is our score. This is our scorecard now that shows the breakdown of how the cost that we are going to spend per unit. You see now, even me that was even explaining it now, it's giving me little challenges, which make me to realize what we actually face while we are. So now in 1 minute, I'll just explain. So what we did here in this question is, when in the question we are having different departments. So regardless of the cost that we are going to spend in the departments now, it's going to be split based on the departments. Now in the questions now, we want to spend 4 hours to produce 1 dex. But before we can spend that 4 hours now, it's going to pass through 2 departments. The department that will assemble it, and then the department that will give it the finish aspect, so that we will be able to sell it out to our customer. But they say 3 hours to processing department, because it's going to take some hours to process it, and then 1 hour only for just the processing department. The same thing applicable to chair. They allocate 1 hour to finish 1 chair, but 30 minutes for assembly, and then 30 minutes for the finishing. And then our fixed cost now is being split into 2. 100,000 of it now we are allocated directly. There is being specific, while the remaining 600,000 is going to base on the apportionment. But before basing it on the apportionment now, they now tell us that, okay, 600,000 now should be divided based on the department by using the certain percentage. The first percentage now is 40% for assembly, and then 60% for the finished department. And then what we are still going to produce is 30 and 20. So that is the reason why we now come here now and try to split this 600,000 based on the percentage that they gave us. So we only split now, but we have not actually absorbed it based on the basic of our apportionment. But before we can apportion it, we need to know, since it is based on the labor hour, we need to first determine that, okay, now it's based on labor hour. How many hours are we going to spend based on each department? Based on each department, how many hours are we going to spend based on each department? It means, since we are producing 30,000 of decks and 3 hours is being allocated to assembly, okay, 30,000 multiplied by 3 hours now, it means under the assembly we are going to spend 90,000 hours. Then the remaining hours now go to finishing, and we are producing 30,000 hours. It means the remaining 30,000 hours now will now go toward to finish the department. Now the chair, we only have 1 hour, but this 1 hour now is being split into 2, 30 minutes half of 1 hour, half of 1 hour into each department. So that is the reason why we were able to split these two now. And then now we now determine the total hour that we are going to spend for this each of the department. 100 hours for the department A, which is for finishing, and then 40 hours for department F, which is for the finished department. Now we now want to split it now, since we have already know the total hour that we are splitting. Now we want to split our overhead cost now, which is this 600,000 naira. This is 600,000 naira that we have already split based on the department. Now, how much do we split to assembly department? Is 300,000. And then how many hours are we going to spend in the assembly? Is 100,000. So now it's now going to be okay. Our overhead basis on allocation, which is the 300,000, multiplied by the basis of apportionment, which is based on the labor hour, which is 100,000. 300,000 divided by 100,000 now will give us 3 naira. It means our overhead on the assembly hour now is going to be 3 naira, regardless of what we are calculating. And then on the finishing department now, 400 is our total allocations. Why the total hour we are going to spend in finishing is 40,000 hours. Then 400,000 divided by this 40,000 give us 10 naira per overhead. Now we now come to how we are going to now prepare our scorecard now to know how much are we going to spend in producing each of the products, the desk and the chair. The material and the labor hour is straightforward. We are not having issue in that one because we have prepared it in the first class. So where we are having issue is how to apportion our overhead. And then we are apportion our overhead now based on the labor hour. And we allocate 3 hours to go for the assembly in producing decks. And 3 naira has already been allocated to assembly. Then we multiply, we're able to get this. And then the same thing applicable to this now. And the finishing hour that we're having 10 naira per overhead. And then we are spending 1 hour under under the desk to produce to produce decks. Now we are spending 1 hour, and then we allocated 10 naira to it. So since the total hour that we want to spend in producing decks now is 4 hours, 3 naira for assembly and then 1 naira for finishing. So 1 hour multiplied by the 10 naira of the overhead is going to give us 10 naira per overhead under this particular one. And then the same thing applicable to to our chair. So that is how we are going to split it. So I don't know if you get this explanation clearly now. Do we get this explanation clearly? So you are free to unmute the mic and then ask question. If you want to ask question, you are free to unmute your mic now and ask question, please. Ask question, ask question, ask question. If you have any question to ask. Do we understand what we just did, or there is where we are having some little challenges? Okay, me, I will call. Okay, let me call someone to explain to me how we split the overhead on the assembly department. Okay, so I'm going to call one person. Marcinat, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so now can you please explain to us how we did this apportionment based on the labor hour that was given to us to split this overhead? Can you explain in maybe just 30 seconds or 1 minute. How do we go about this? I want to see if we both understand what we are doing. Okay, you can proceed, please. Are you with me? Okay, seems like I'm going to call another person. Okay, Mrs. Infirma, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you just explain briefly how we get the overhead per what is it called? Per each department?
Okay, from the question, it
Okay.
says that the company expects to produce
I
30,
believe you have.
30,000.
I believe you just have the question.
Yes, sir. I have it.
Okay, you can proceed. You can proceed.
From the question, it says that the company expects to produce 30,000 desks and 20,000 chairs. And then, being that we have already established the assembly cost, I think the cost of assembly, the number of hours to assemble, which is
Okay.
3 hours. Which is
Okay.
3 hours.
Okay.
To produce the desk, we are expected to spend 4 hours. 3 hours
Okay.
for assembly, and then 1 hour for finishing. So the
Okay.
30,000 units expected to be produced times
Okay.
the 3 hours we are spending on
Okay.
assembly. That's 90,000.
Okay.
Then we are expected to produce times the 1 hour that we are going to spend on finishing. That was how we got the 30,000, making
Okay.
it total 120,000 to produce the desk. Then for the chairs,
100,000 hours.
no, I mean for the chairs in the desk, the other
Okay.
way around. Mhm.
Okay.
So on the other
So
hand, the
now the
chairs,
question I want to ask now: did you understand how we share this remaining balance here? This one that I just
yes, sir.
highlighted. You understand how we did it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So okay. Mr. Aliyu. Okay, you two, you can unmute your mic. Let me ask you one question. You can unmute your mic. So now, Mrs. Ifeoma have already tell us how we arrive at our total assembly hour and then the finishing hours for each of these products. Now, can you explain to me how we arrive at this 30 naira here? So how do we arrive at this 30 naira, and what do we bring in that will say that we use to determine it by getting this 3 naira? Can you just explain to us how we arrive at it, Mr. Aliyu?
Yes, sir. Please, can you scroll a little bit off so that I can see?
Okay. Now, can you see? We are waiting for you. We just have 5 minutes left now. We are waiting for you. And then I think the remaining class, I will just share it in the, I will do it, then I will share it in the group so that we can go through it ourselves because of the time. Okay, we are waiting for you, Mr. Aliyu. Are you with us? Oh, I doubt it. If you are with us. Okay. Mr. Jibril, can you help him out, please? How do we arrive at that 3 naira per overhead? And can you explain how we did it? Okay, seems like him too is not. Okay, Mr. Olumuyiwa, can you just help them out by explaining how we arrive at that 3 naira?
Okay, sir. So what we did was after getting both balance for the 240 and for assembling and 60,000 for assembling too, same as the 360 and 40,000 for finishing. You said we're going to take the total balance after doing the total addition of
Okay.
that, and also the total balance of the hours, dividing it. So with that we're able to get the per hour, per naira, per overhead costs. Yeah,
Okay.
per overhead costs. So
Okay.
that's what you said we're going to for both assembling and finishing.
Okay. So it means now that the total of each of these departments, based on how we share the overhead. Please just omit your mic, please. Omit it a little bit. All right, thank you. So what you just said now that, okay, once we're able to arrive at this total overhead based on how we split it, based on how the question asked us to split it, and then we're able to determine the basis of apportionment, which is this labor. You know, in the question, the basis can be on machine hour. It might not be on labor. That's one thing I want you people to understand. Even they might decide to base this basic of apportionment on the electricity of the factory. But the main thing here is, okay, if they ask us to apportion these things, what basis did they ask us to use? Because in this one now, in this question, the example that we have been using now, we have been basing it based on the labor hour. So what if they ask us that, okay, the number hour that machine is going to work is what they are going to charge the basis of the apportionment of the overhead on? How are we going to do it? It's just the same process. Just know that, okay, how many products, how many units of product do we want to produce? Then how many hours that each of the machine in department is going to use? It's just the same thing. The only thing is just if it's not based on labor this time around, if it is based on department, if it is based on maybe machine hour or even electricity, just know, okay, how many hours are we going to under electricity to carry out that, what is it called, that production? You just have to know the basis. It's not about saying how we solve. It's about understanding the basis. You know, any cost that is being allocated directly to a specific cost center for a purpose, that one is what we know as allocation. You know, it means that one, okay, it has already been allocated directly. So we don't have any issue with that one. But any leftover or anyone that is not really being explained deeply in the questions, that is only based on, okay, we want to divide it based on the department. And then when we divide it based on the department, then we want to now split it again based on basis, maybe labor, maybe machine hour. We just have to understand what basis are they using to carry out these things. You know, even in exam, you might just only see a question that is asking you just to apportion or allocate overhead alone, and they can put 15 marks. They will not even ask you the material. They will not even have to ask you the labor. So they will just give you, for example, they just give you two departments now, and then they give you, like, for example, now they will just give you maybe what can I call this one? Maybe they just give you maybe maintenance department. So which means in this maintenance department now, any cost that they allocated to these ones now, you have to allocate that what is it called? Maintenance cost. Let's just assume maybe here is 20,000. Here is 20,000 now. And then this 20,000 now, the purpose of it now is to spend it on these two departments. So in the question, they can just decide to give you only overhead alone, and the only thing they will just ask you to do is just apportion it based on the department. How are we going to do that? This one that we have been doing now, we have a specific product, where we have to determine the material, determine the labor. What if they are not giving us all those ones? They only give us the overhead based on how they want us to apportion it. Based on the basis on how they want us to apportion it, and then they give us the departments, and then they give us, okay, maybe maintenance unit or maintenance department, that okay, this cost on the maintenance unit or maintenance department should be apportioned to the two production departments. The basis of all these things is, how do we understand these questions, and how do we intend to apply these question in what they ask us to do? Those are the things. I will rewind one example, but what I will just do is, maybe before tomorrow or tomorrow morning, before I go out, I'll just try to do it and then share it to the group, so that we can just go over it and then try to know how such scenario work. In a situation where they are just giving us only overhead, and then they ask us to split it based on departments. How are we going to do that? So I will just try to see what I can do by the grace of God tomorrow morning. If I can just try to do it before I go out, maybe I will make sure that it should not be more than 30 minutes, and then share it with the group. And then also share the question as well, so that at least we can go through it and try. We still have a lot of things to do. Because after this one, now we are moving, our next class now, we are moving to marginal costing. We still have batch costing, we still have cash budgeting that we have not, a lot we still have that we have not even done. And then time is against us. So I don't want us to be taking much time in each of the chapter, but the purpose is, how do we intend to understand each of what we are doing is the most important thing. It's not about we fasting, it's about getting the basis of each of the chapter on how can we apply it in the exam. So I think this is where we'll stop tonight. And if you have any questions before we end the class, so you can just unmute the mic and then ask the question before we end the class. So does anyone have a question? And secondly, please, if you want to register for your ICANN, maybe you have not registered for the exam, or you are having some subscription fee to pay. So if you don't have anyone that can help you to do that, you are free to just chat me up. I will just guide you on how you are going to do it. Then you make the payment yourself. So my own is to just guide you and tell you how you are going to go about it. Then you do it on your own and then process it yourself. So that is it. So I want to say good night to everyone. So, and good night, and thanks for joining tonight's class. So I will try as much as possible to share the notes and then the last part of this chapter with us. Then on Friday, okay, today is on Wednesday or Thursday, we will be having class. So, and then on Friday, we'll be having class as well as on Sunday. I want to make sure that before on Sunday, we have covered at least 2 chapters. So good night. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, sir.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.